Hey, everybody, I'm Robert Yerby, and I'm an insurance professional, and admittedly, kind of an insurance nerd. My friends and family tell me that nobody is going to want to listen to a podcast about insurance. So instead, on this show, I'm hoping to share a story or have a conversation with a guest about some relatable experience, and then show you how insurance impacts that story or topic. My hope is you'll enjoy a few laughs with me and maybe learn at least one interesting thing about insurance along the way. Here we go. Hey, everybody, this is Robert. Thanks for joining the podcast. I am joined by Eddie Velez this morning. Eddie, how are you?
I'm doing great. How about yourself, Robert?
Real good, real good. So, Eddie is one of our instructors at BMFCE. It's got a Medicare class that he does for us that's really gaining some traction, hearing good things about it from customers that have been in those classes. And Eddie, just I guess real quick, can you tell everybody, a little bit about your background?
Oh gosh, where do I start? I was 8 years in the Marine Corps infantry from New York City originally. I went to art school and I wanted to be an art director, but I made the mistake of watching the movie Rambo and I said, oh my gosh, I got to do that. And of course,
Yeah.
the Marine Corps has got a better looking business suit. So, and then I said, and I got to outdo Rambo because he was in the Army. And you know what Army stands for, right? Ain't ready
No.
for Marines yet. So I
Okay.
joined the Marine Corps, and I say that with all the love in the world. My son was in the Army, and got out of the Corps, landed in Florida, had a marketing company, and I became my mother's caregiver for the last 3 years of her life. She lived in Puerto Rico. Hurricane Maria hit, and so she came to live with me, and I became her power of attorney. I was not an insurance agent at the time. And being a hard-headed Marine, I didn't want to talk to an agent because when I heard the word agent, what I heard was salesman. I don't
Yeah.
like being sold.
Yep.
And like most people, I made an assumption. And my assumption was that Medicare has to be the expert on Medicare. And boy, was I wrong. I gave them a call and they asked me nothing of what, if I don't ask a client, I could lose my license. They just asked for my mom's social security number. They saw she had a lot of drugs that she took. They said there's this 5-star plan in your area that covers all her meds. We recommend it. What was I going to say? I said, okay. I mean, what do I know? It
Sure.
was the worst plan in the world for my mother. Now, a little caveat, it doesn't mean it was the worst plan in the world because there's no such thing also as the best plan in the world. It's only what's best for the individual because everybody's needs are unique and different. Well, my
Yeah.
mom's needs were very, very complex, and she had a twisted intestine from a surgery decades ago, and she needed to see certain doctors to fix it. But this plan was more of a value HMO plan, and it wouldn't allow her to see those doctors because they were not in the network and they wouldn't accept the HMO. And I had no clue what I was doing. Well,
Sure.
fast forward 2 years, my buddy Everett of 25 years, who is an agent, I mentioned it to him. He got me straight. We put her on the extra help program, got her on a Humana PPO plan. Everything was set for her to be able to do what needed to be done. And then coronavirus started. And 8 months later, well, not even 8 months, because on June 23rd, 2020, she died from that intestine that was twisted. And so while I don't want to say that, there are people out there dying if you put them on the wrong plan, it can happen. And so that just made me, want to become an agent. And so I dropped my marketing company, became an agent, and my mission is to educate everybody that is put in my path, and this way they can defend themselves if I'm not around to defend them. And that's how I got started as an agent.
Mhm. And do you feel differently about the word agent now?
I sure do. And
All right.
I've
Good.
learned that, while agent, depending on the industry, might have a different connotation, when it comes to Medicare, everybody needs to have his or her own agent. And there are two types of agents in the industry. There are captured agents and fiduciary brokers. Now, I don't want to say that a captured agent doesn't have your best interest at heart. I'm sure they do, but
Yeah.
they have to make it fit their tiny little box because they represent the company, not you. They're not allowed to show you anything outside the company. So if there is a better plan from a different carrier, you will never know about it. Whereas a fiduciary broker, I contract with 10 different companies with 93 different plans, but I don't work for them. I work for the individual. And by my license, I could only do what is legally, ethically, and morally in their best interest. And if I don't, I could not just lose my license, I can go to jail. So, and so when you have your own fiduciary agent, then you have an advocate. I mean, I got clients that call me because of these little rules in CMS and Medicare, like, for example, the 2 midnight rule. If you're coming into an emergency room that decides whether or not you'll be hospitalized or go under observation, which can have a major difference in not only on cost, but on future benefits, like for skilled nursing. The 3 day rule, if you're not in the hospital for 3 days, you lose your skilled nursing benefits for that benefit period. And so I get calls all the time, Eddie, this is happening to me. I walk them through it. I will call on their behalf and I advocate for them because my job is to protect them.
Yeah, and I've said this 100 times on my podcast. I'm a huge proponent of agents. Uh, I'm an agent myself, and when somebody asks me what I do on a plane, at the bar or whatever, I proudly say, "Hey, I'm an insurance agent." Um, yeah. So, uh, all right. So I had something in mind. I wanted
Okay.
to talk to you about. I thought of you the other day when I was talking to my dad. Now, my dad is, I don't know, 76, something like that. And his wife is turning 65 in November.
Okay.
So, they're ramping up for her to go see somebody,
Mhm.
an agent, and talk about
Right.
her options, which of course, again, huge proponent of that. But I was talking to my dad, and he was very excited about this new gym that he had joined.
Mhm.
Every My dad lives in Michigan. I'm mostly headquartered in Arizona, so I go out to see my dad several times a year. And when I do, he and I go to the gym together. We both like to work out. We always seem to find an opportunity for me to tag along with him to get a workout in. And we always were driving, no kidding, like 30 minutes from his place to this gym.
Oh, that must be a great gym.
I mean, it was a good gym. It was a good gym, and it was affiliated with his, I believe, hospital where he had uh, a surgery, way, way back. Not recently, but way back.
Mhm.
And we just kept driving to this gym. Well, he got a new gym, okay,
Mhm.
and it's a big name, big box gym that
Mhm.
everybody would know the name if I said it, but I just don't want to. It's around the corner from him in his Detroit suburb, and it's more convenient to get to.
Mhm.
And I work out a fair amount, he works out a fair amount. So me and my dad, we're just talking about gyms and what they had or didn't have and what he liked and didn't like and all this. And he mentions to me, he's like, well, one of the reasons why I picked this gym is that my health plan will pay for it.
Mhm.
It's like, really? Your your health plan will pay
Mhm.
for it. So you see, I'm not a Medicare agent, so I don't know anything about
Mhm.
this. So, I asked him, well, did they pay for the other one? And he's like, no, they didn't. I was like, huh, interesting. And I didn't really want to get into all the details with him,
Mhm.
but that conversation made me think of you. And also, then I just forwarded you that Wall Street Journal article. And one of the
Mhm.
first things they mention is how insurance companies are trimming benefits. And maybe one of the things they trim are those
Mhm.
free gym memberships.
Mhm.
So I'm going to talk to my dad again, this weekend. What can you tell me? Help educate me on the gym thing and maybe what's
Okay.
happening more broadly with, Medicare benefit cuts, maybe.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, silver sneakers is probably the king of the gym memberships when it comes to health insurance with Medicare. Now there are a few other ones that are smaller, like Renew Active, and but 90% of all the plans out there are on Silver Sneakers. And Silver Sneakers is an amazing benefit. And I'd be willing to bet that it would have probably covered the gym your dad was rather going to 30 minutes away, because almost every gym out there accepts it. So the way it works is when you become a member of, your plan du jour, Humana, Aetna, Cigna, just pick one.
Yeah.
So what happens is they pay for this membership for two reasons. First reason is, of course, they want you to be healthy because they want you moving. That's going to always be good. But
Yeah.
second is they want you socializing. Unfortunately, many people, when they get older, they become hermits. They don't go out, they stay alone, they become depressed. And so they don't want that. They want to treat the whole person. So they figure, hey, we get you involved in one of these Silver Sneaker classes. You show up, you meet a bunch of people, you meet the instructor, you make some friends, and you have a social life in your senior years. Well, with Silver Sneakers, you're not married to any one gym. So, in other words, if your dad was traveling or he found out that there's another gym across town and he'd like to go to that one occasionally, he could go, if they accept Silver Sneakers, he can gym hop. It doesn't matter. He could walk in and say, hey, I'm a Silver Sneakers member, shows his ID number. They put it in the system. They go, welcome, come on in. They get paid for that one day. If
Okay.
he travels to Arizona and he wants to go work out, same thing. Take that Silver Sneakers number to a gym that's local in Arizona, that's part of the program. He can use that gym. And they also have a tuition program for college for children. And they don't even have to be family. It could be anybody you want to help. So the way that works is when you join this college tuition program, you get 1,000 points, which means $1,000. 1 point equals a dollar, just for signing up. And then if you use your Silver Sneakers 7 times a month, you have to do it 7 times a month. And if you're not into working out, go to the Y and jump in the pool. The Y takes Silver Sneakers, and you'll get 250 points per month, 3,000 per year max. And so depending on how young the person is that you want to help, because you register that person in the program, you could accumulate, 15, 20, $25,000. And then they have a list of over 400 schools nationwide, from universities to colleges to local colleges, to vocational schools. And you pick the one you want, they send them the money, they break it up by semester. And if there's a balance, then you take care of the balance.
Okay.
Powerful, powerful program. Now, you had mentioned another part of the question, and I lost my train of thought on that. So I mentioned the Silver Sneakers, and you had asked another thing as well.
Well, I had forwarded you that Wall Street Journal article that was
Oh,
suggesting
yes, the
maybe some
losing of
insurance
the
companies,
benefits.
yeah, making
Right.
cuts.
So what happened was, every time there's any kind of legislation in Washington, there are always unintended consequences.
Sure.
Well, the Inflation Reduction Act had a lot of unintended consequences. And that was a law that was passed in 2022, and it affected a lot of things, not just Medicare. There was infrastructure programs in there for internet into rural areas and all these things. But when it came to Medicare, it specifically targeted the prescription portion of it, the Part D, and it changed quite a few things. It got rid of the donut hole, which I'm a big proponent of that, because that donut hole was costing people a ton of money. But
Hmm.
it also, what it did was, it made it that now there was a $2,000 a year maximum out of pocket limit, which is also good. That means that regardless of whether you have a deductible or not, once you've spent $2,000, or anybody spent it on your behalf, like a manufacturer's program, the extra help program, whatever the case may be, then the person pays absolutely nothing for their medications until the following year. But there's three levels now in the Part B plan. It used to be four, since they got rid of the donut hole. The final level is called catastrophic coverage. Now, for you to understand how this affected Medicare as a whole, you need to understand how catastrophic coverage was paid for in 2024 and before. So in those years, 80% of the cost of the drugs of a person in catastrophic coverage was covered by Medicare. 20% of that cost was covered by the insurance plan. Okay. And then there was also some co-pays that they had to pay a certain percentage of, which they got rid of them. And in 2024, there was no cost in catastrophic coverage. And then you had an $8,000 what we would call true out-of-pocket cost that would decide when you entered into catastrophic coverage. Well, first of all, they decided, you know what, we don't want to be paying 80% anymore. So in 2025, CMS says we're only going to pay 20%. And now they're making the manufacturers have some skin in the game. They pay 20%. And they told a new insurance company, you're now going to have to pay 60%. So you're going to have to come up with 300% more money. We don't care how you do it. Oh, and by the way, we're no longer going to make it $8,000 to qualify for catastrophic coverage. It's only $2,000. So we quadrupled how many people are now going to qualify. So in essence, it's not 300% more money, it's 1,200% more money. Well, you being a business owner, you know that if you're projecting 5 years out on your business plan, and all of a sudden you're sucker punched with it, you have to come up with that kind of money. You're going to ask yourself, where am I going to get it?
Yeah.
So they not only affected the prescription drug plan where they started adding deductibles where in the past there were none, and co-pays, oh my gosh, they went up. For example, typically before 2025, a tier four on a prescription drug plan, because they have the formularies usually have 5 tiers. Tiers one and two are generics, typically no cost. Tier threes are the preferred brand names, and typically it was anywhere from $30 to $45, depending on the plan. Tier four was your non-preferred brand names, in other words, the super expensive drugs. And on average, it was anywhere from $95 to $110 copay. Well,
Okay.
they made that now anywhere from 33 to 38% co-insurance. So when
Okay.
you understand that a lot of the drugs in tier four are 500, 1,000, $2,000
Right.
drugs, and you got to pay a 33%, and it's a $2,000 drug, you got to come up with $660, for the month, every month moving forward, that's killing people.
Yeah.
But they can only do so much with the prescription drugs because otherwise, then nobody will be able to afford those drugs. So what happened was they started dipping into the hospital and medical portion of the plan, the Part A and Part B portion of the plan, saying we got to pull some money out of there to cover the drugs over here. So now we started seeing deductibles being added over there, over the counter allowances shrinking or disappearing. Dental took it under jaw, no pun intended. We had one plan that had a $7,000 dental benefit and it dropped to $1,000. I mean, that's that even going to cover that, but probably might cover preventive. That's about it. They started increasing co-pays, increasing maximum out-of-pocket benefits. Flex cards are a thing of the past. So, it was a shock to the system. And so last AEP, which is October 15th through December 7th, there was chaos. Now, for you to understand what I mean by that, on an average AEP, 15% of the people will change their plan. 30% will shop, but 15% will change their plan.
Okay.
Last year, 40% changed their plan. That was
Oh, wow.
almost, not quite, a 300% increase. Now, this year, because CMS is receiving $22 billion, by the new administration, and they were told that 85% of it must be used for Medicare Advantage, we anticipate, we don't know yet because we don't get to see the plans until October 1st. We anticipate a lot of reversal of that. So we're hoping that we're going to see
Okay.
again more robust plans, big dental, and so forth.
Okay. Well, what do you suppose happens with the silver sneakers and the gym memberships? Is that going away, do you think?
Well, I don't think it'll go away because it saves them a lot of money if a person is staying active, they're working on their balance, they're working on their strength. That also affects, triglycerides, it affects fat, and all of these things have a medical cost. So
Mhm.
obviously, if they can get a person to stay fit and at the same time be emotionally fit, it's going to save a lot on the bottom line. So I would be very surprised if I saw them go away.
Okay. Yeah, and not to belabor the point on the gym thing, but I absolutely agree with what you just said. I think my dad has a better life or lifestyle because of the
Mhm.
fact that he's physically active. And you know, the times where he's maybe had a little injury or whatever and it's kept him from the gym or
Right.
illness that's lingered, he doesn't feel as good. And his I don't know, his mood is different too. I can tell,
Yeah,
when I do the, weekly check-in calls with him. Uh yeah, I mean I can tell he's a little different. So yeah, I think it's a great thing that they have those gym memberships for folks.
absolutely. I can't wait to get mine, but I got to wait 6 more years.
6 years. Well, yeah.
59 years old.
And I've got a good long ways to wait. But when the time comes, I'll come back to this. I think that these plans are so complicated, and I'm in
Hmm.
the insurance business. I think that they're so
Right.
complicated that you really do need somebody that is working with these things day to day to help you
Hmm.
explain and find the right plan for you.
I
So you're doing good
totally
work.
agree. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah,
I'll tell you that when I go over a plan with a client, I don't just go through a summary of benefits, and that's what most agents will do. They'll just sit there and say, "You got this benefit, this benefit, this benefit," because by law we have to make sure that you know that, and we send you a copy of the summary of benefits. You're probably also going to get one in the mail from the carrier. I really dig deep with them, and I explain in details, give them inside baseball. Hey, in this situation here, you need to understand this. And I go make sure that you look at your summary of benefits and see what your options are, because your copays are going to be dictated by where you go. And often you can eliminate a copay if your primary care provider, for example, offers that service and so forth. And if you're over here in the hospital situation, make sure that if they say we want to keep you under observation, that you say no, please admit me because it's going to be an extra cost. I can't afford it. And if you need me to stay there for 2 midnights, and you'll surprise them when you say that because they're like, whoa, this person knows what they're talking about.
yeah,
Then in that way they'll put them in the hospital, and chances are that they'll get their skilled nursing benefit because they'll be there for 3 days if they're in that kind of a condition, and they won't lose out on thousands and thousands of dollars. Because I'm telling you, there was an MSNBC or NBC, I'm not sure which, newscast, and I saved it and I share it with my clients, of two people that, because of those two rules, the 2 midnight rule and the 3 day rule, lost their skilled nursing benefit for that benefit period, went to skilled nursing, and one of them had to pay 22,000 and the other one 28,000 because they had to cover full freight because they weren't in the hospital for the allotted amount of time. It's crazy.
wow. No, that's good stuff to know. Obviously, I mean, could mean, yeah, tens of thousands of dollars.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right. Just really quick, you kind of alluded to this earlier, I think. Some of the rules
Mhm.
that the federal government has for agents and things that you can say or can't say, and the ways that you
Mhm.
can market to eligible insureds, or
Mhm.
tell me just quickly what some of those things are and why it's important.
Well, the reason it's important, unfortunately, there are a lot of people out there that realize there's money to be made. And so they will skirt those rules because of human nature. They know if I put the pressure on somebody, chances are they're going to say, okay. If I make them say, feel like they're going to lose something, FOMO, the fear of missing out, they're going to go for something. And so they don't want that kind of a distraction. And that's why they put in, for example, the 48-hour rule for a scope of appointment. A scope of appointment is a document that must be signed and records that whoever the agent is that's serving you is the agent you chose to share this information with you. And once
Mhm.
that is signed, that then the agent must wait 48 hours before they can talk benefits. So in other words, they can give you a Medicare 101, they can collect the information of your doctors and meds so they can do their homework, but they are not allowed to talk about plans for 48 hours. And that's to give a cooling off period to the beneficiary. Okay.
Okay.
Now, the only time that rule doesn't apply is if somebody calls you, because obviously they're saying, hey, I want this information. Please give me this information. And
Okay.
then Medicare says, well, we're not going to deny them getting that information. Another
Okay.
thing that, for example, you can't use hyperbole. You can't use, what's like saying free or act now or don't miss out, or throwing numbers at them that really have no meaning because, you're not allowed to even be talking about benefits before a scope of appointment is signed. So if somebody sees an ad, it's mentioning actual benefits, that's illegal.
Okay.
So and so it all comes down to, give them a level playing field. You're there to educate and guide and then let them decide. That's why whenever I speak with a client, I tell them I make you two promises. And they say, "What's that?" I said, "The first one is I promise you I'm the no pressure guy. I'm not going to put you in a corner and try to talk you into something that you don't want to do." I says, "I will never do that to you." And they'll say, "Okay, great. What's the next one?" I said that whatever plan you choose, you will know that plan. Now, you may not remember everything, but you will never be able to say that Eddie didn't tell me because nobody makes a decision for you except you. And my job is to guide you. And that's it. And once I
Good
tell
stuff.
them that, then now they're comfortable.
Good stuff, Eddie. All right. Well, I think we've exhausted our time, but this has been great information. Uh, I feel like I've got some things, next time I talk to my dad or my
Mhm.
stepmom, and I'm asking them, how her appointment went, I'll be better informed and ask better questions. So,
Mhm.
hey, I appreciate it.
And I appreciate you. I got to tell you, the reason you and I met was because I took your CE, and your company does a great job, by the way. And I highly recommend it. It was enjoyable. I sat down, and, I just watched and listened to you explain, the CE on law and ethics, and then that was it. It was done. It was simple. It was easy, and I learned what I needed to learn. So my hats off to you, and you keep doing the great work that you're doing out there.
Well, I appreciate it. And now you're a part of that great product that we have. So it's all good, my friend. Okay. Well, hey, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Um, If you're looking for continuing education, if you happen to be a licensed agent or producer, you can take our live webinars at bmfce.com. If you like the podcast, maybe forward an episode to somebody that you care about, maybe somebody that is planning on getting on Medicare or shopping plans, and subscribe, leave us a review. All of that stuff definitely helps us. All right. And we'll have another episode coming up in just a couple of weeks. Thank you.